How's it going, guys? So today I've got a bit of a different video for you. I've got 5 wins. They're just random wins, 5 consecutive wins in a row. And I'm going to commentate over them. Now, I'm not necessarily playing my best at the moment. I've been playing a lot of Dead Man and not PKing, just like training and stuff. So my clicks are a bit slow, I'm kind of out of the loop and things like that. Um, but hopefully I'll be able to commentate a little bit. So I went in for a claw there because I wanted to kind of lower his HP a bit because you can see he's very high and he's just doing a lot of damage to me. I was quite unlucky there though to get frozen and for him to hit so high, he hit like a 34. I realize at this point he's one of these people, he wants to barrage me. Sometimes you come up against these people. I think a lot of people are reluctant to spray mage, so people kind of think that if they put the effort in to switch to barrage and click the barrage, that they're going to hit you off prayer. At this point, I note it, so just be aware of that. Some people will literally just camp barrage, even if you're praying mage, they're just going to keep switching back to attack, then barraging you again. At this point, this guy's got a VLS. Now, VLSs are so OP. I need to, because look, just 43 out of nowhere, you get 4 specs, it's just such an easy way to drain your food. So I realized he's got a VLS and I decided to DD him. Also, he's getting a lot of hits off prayer. Obviously, like quite a worthwhile opponent. You can see why he's in the final. So that's when I try something different, and I always recommend you guys. You got to test people. So this guy is really good at just standing there and doing damage and getting hits off prayer. He's pretty quick with his switches. So we need to determine his decision making. Well, we basically need to change the fight up. So if you see, once I actually get a DD, which I do there with a 0 freeze, you see he actually switches to mage and he basically just prays. Well, I mean, he doesn't necessarily pray melee, but he's kind of like no longer reading what I'm doing. He's just trying to get a freeze. He throws obviously a VLS out there, and there's nothing I can do about that. It's on pray melee, and it still hits me. But now the tide has turned. See, you can see that he's kind of not panicking, but really trying to get momentum back and struggling. Even when he catches a freeze on me, obviously he's just barraging me, and I've kind of got his number. But yeah, the VLS is just so powerful. I think here, if you look at my HP, it will just go down like a huge amount. So it went down 36 through prayer. But I don't give up either. So I'm 34 HP now, and he's low too. I just get back to DDing. Don't worry about it. Try and steal a bit of HP with a blood barrage, and I get the KO. I'm not sure if that was a KO. I think that was actually a finish. But yeah, so what I'd recommend for what I kind of think I did well in that fight is I kind of switched things up. I saw that it wasn't working for me. He was getting a lot of hits off prayer and he had like a really good DPS weapon. So I changed things up and that got me the win. So I recommend, if something's not working for you mid-fight, change it up. Challenge them to try a different sort of PK. And that guy was fantastic when it was just a normal 1 versus 1. But the second I started DDing, he started having trouble. So, on to the second fight. Now, I was actually watching this guy. He camped the Morrigan's javelins a lot. So, my first tip is if you're in third place, you're waiting for the last 2 people to fight so you can get to the final. Watch what your opponents are doing. See, I knew he was going to throw that javelin because he is highly camping it. And something I do good here is I don't prioritize a freeze because he's praying mage and I want to do that DPS. That's a nice little fakie into the claws. You guys know that one of my favorite moves is range into it. I see him on like 50 HP, so I just go for it. This guy also has a VLS. I thought I'd change the attack styles, and my fakies basically get him. Let's have a look at what actually happens there. So the claws off prayer, that could have got him, and then the bolt is on prayer. But I wanted to change attack styles because usually after someone gets clawed, they'll pray melee, and he did. He just did it slightly slowly. And I switched back to tank gear, so you can't predict what I'm going to do next. And then I melee him, but because I switched back to the tank gear, he thought I was going to range him. A nice little fakie there. So that's basically that. It was a pretty easy fight. I don't think I ate. But switching back to the tank gear got me the kill there, just because it made me much harder to predict. Now I put this little bit of the clip in here because this guy says good fight and this guy says shit, completely unprovoked. So actually I basically called him an idiot. I can't stand these people, man. Like, why are people so toxic in LMS? Like, everyone's here to have a good time and like play a game. I don't understand why you have to get like so ego driven and stuff like that. But whatever. Just a pet peeve. So this guy immediately DDs on me. I managed to catch a freeze, but if you're not competent with catching a freeze, I'd just recommend putting your tank gear on and trying to get their prez. This time I have the VLS, so I'm just trying to use it whenever I'm not getting. Whenever he's not praying melee, I don't think he's going to pray melee. I want to whip that VLS out. I knew it was going to be a DD fight because obviously he D'd on me before, so I click render self on. Make sure my HP is high. This guy is maging a lot, so hopefully that's what I pick up from now. So hopefully I actually was aware of that at the time as well. As you can see, I'm doing quite a lot of switches. I was basically, as I said, I was kind of sick of training on DMMM and I missed Bridding a little bit. So I was kind of just flexing or just doing as many switches as I could, just having a bit of fun. So not necessarily my best games, but one thing I'm doing at the moment is I'm just switching my attack styles every time. I can see he's just trying to mage me a lot. Like a lot of people do this. Like they just think that if they mage you, it's going to be a free hit because most people won't pray mage, or the average player won't pray mage. But obviously, I'm going to pray mage if I think he's going to barrage me. He goes in for a DD. I predict that he's going to hit me with the claws or just some sort of melee weapon. If someone DDs you and you can't see what they're doing, you want to pray melee. Okay, so that was a hit from him off prayer. He hadn't showed me the Elden Maw up until that point, so and I think he one-ticked it, so it's not too big a deal. Just trying to keep up the momentum. See, my tank gear's on for his hit. If he's not attacking on the same hit as you, you want to switch your tank gear on after every hit. You see I do it here? Make sure that top and bottom are on, because it's your best protection, especially if you miss a prayer. That might save you, it's going to reduce your chance of taking damage. So I missed the prayer there. He had 27, but I still got the tank gear on, so, minimize the damage output from him. He's kind of clocked on to the fact that I expect him to mage all the time now. And yeah, I KO him there with a fakie. Once again, obviously a little bit of toxicity from me there, but he deserved it for flaming. And what got me the kill there is the fakie. So I switched to range. Does he even pray range? No, he doesn't. So he just kind of got overwhelmed by, all what I was doing. He thought I was going to mage him. And I got the VLS hit there. Right, this is an interesting one because you don't see this too often. This guy was basically going for the tank setup. He did have mage, but he basically had ballista, whip, claws, stuff like that. And the one thing that we know about ballista boys is they love to use that ballista. So you need to if they're not utilizing mage, you need to utilize it. So I get him frozen in place, and now all he can do is range and mage me. He's not gonna mage me. He's got myth seeds, but we know he's not gonna mage me. He just is that type of PK. You can tell straight away, especially when they're main handing a ballista like at the start of the fight. So as long as he's frozen, I'm kind of safe. I'm going to take passive damage just from the ballista hitting me on prayer, but there's nothing I can do from that unless I want to just DD in the whole fight, and I wasn't really in the mood to D this guy. If you want to really do damage, though, just DD. Just DD. If they're not going to freeze you, then you need to utilize the fact that you're unfrozen. Another thing that I do quite well in this fight is when he's using the mithril seeds, I stand on him. Or I stand where I anticipate him moving to with the mithril seeds, and that just kind of reduces him doing any damage as well. Now I don't know, I think that might have been off prayer. Another thing to do is be aware of what's around you. So I saw there was an ACB on the floor. There was actually two, but that was an upgrade for me. So I went over and picked it up quickly. And that's just going to increase my odds of winning. Like, I'm not saying I need it, but you should always be trying to increase your odds of winning. I could have rendered self there so I could see the whip coming, but at this point, I'm kind of in complete control of the fight. I do actually render self here. But yeah, just I'm aware that he's got the seeds. I know that if he gets to the end of the line, basically he's going to get hit by fault if he seeds out. Once again, just creating distance. So I know he's going to be unfrozen at some point, so I just create distance so he can't one tick melee me. And what I mean by that is if you click to attack someone with, for example, a whip, and you're more than 4 squares away from them, I think it's 4, it's definitely 3, then it will be delayed whilst you actually move over to the player. You won't immediately hit. So if someone's ranging you, for example, in this situation, I go all the way to the other end. Actually, that was a fakie, but if I go all the way to the other end, then I know he's not going to one tick melee me. I'm going to have time to basically prepare myself and get my prayers on in time. So that was a relatively easy win. The guy didn't mage me. But that's something you'll come up against, and don't get overwhelmed by it. Just make sure you get a freeze and then stand away, pray range. And there's nothing that's provoking him to pray to mage, and in that case he didn't, so it was an easy win for us. Okay, so this guy, not really sure what his deal was. He was kind of under geared. There was like loads of gear on the floor he could have picked up, but he didn't. So one of the popular things I do, I switch to my range, and that's provoking. A lot of people, if they see a range weapon, they're going to pray range. I already saw that he was praying range, so there's no reason for him to pray melee at this point unless he's an experienced PKer and realizes that this is a fakie. But I didn't expect that, so I put the range gear on to provoke him into praying range, and I one tick the claws and spec him, and it could have carried him. We got a decent spec though. Once again, I can see that he's not really changing his prayers, so I'm moving back and forwards, kind of trying to provoke him, or kind of provoke him into switching his prayers a little bit. Didn't mean to staff bash there, but we're complete control of the fight. Really, I should eat up here. There's no reason for me to be 62 HP, but I didn't, expect too much from this guy. So once again, fake in, and I put my tank gear on here in between my mage hit. Now I should have avoided that. I ran into his claw spec. I saw that he had his claws on, um, but I was just being a moron basically. I could have done a lot better there. But once again, just keeping distance. I'm unfrozen. I'm utilizing that fact to going for a melee hit and then stepping away so that he can't melee me back whenever I fancy it. And I'm just keeping my HP high. There's absolutely no need for me to keep my HP low and risk getting specced out by, him clawing me or me just fucking up and allowing that. So I'm keeping my HP above 80. He can't spec that. That's fine. He's just camping the ballista at this point. I don't really know what's going on. He was doing quite well against the other opponents, so I don't know why he kind of gave up against me. But there were the claws that we anticipated, and there's the win.